fun. But it was a really rainy day out there, you know. So I didn't spend too much time outside. Just went down just before my friends went on stage there.
Yeah.
So, yeah, Foundry Hall, it's really cool. It's all just homespun community music. You know, just support. And one of the biggest things they do actually that's really cool, is pretty rare, is once a month they have a big open mic in one of the bar restaurants downtown.
Yeah.
And it's only for songwriters, you know, singer-songwriters. So they give you a theme for the month, and they really, you know, if you do someone else's music, that's fine. But they really are all about supporting people writing a song for the theme, or just writing or doing original music.
That's a cool idea.
And it's just like the most supportive place you could ever be. You know, I mean, like as someone who's just learning, or someone doesn't have a lot of self-confidence, or even if they do, people of all abilities support play. You know, so you do a song or two, you'll have like 30, 35 people do that, and you've got like a captive. They don't allow talking. Like they want everyone's there is focused on what's happening. You know, and they fill up the whole downstairs, probably 100 people. You know.
Wow.
So it's just a super supportive environment for musicians. Just don't find that very often, where people are so supportive and ready to mentor older people already. You know, people who've been doing it for a long time. Where you have people the whole understanding is that if you're there, you're there to support and pay attention. People aren't just in there talking. You know? It's pretty cool. So Foundry Hall is pretty unique. And they used to have their own space, which was really nice. They bring in bands from really focused on world music. So bands and bringing in bands from around the world who were coming to Chicago, and just give them a reason to come up, bounce up here for a weekend. So I've seen bands from India, Africa, China, Tuva, all here just through Foundry Hall.
That's cool.
Awesome. Yeah, they're not able to do that anymore, unfortunately. Really, they do a little bit, but not much, because they lost their venue. Because people can support it, but they were getting grants, and that's what was really paying for things other than the grants, just kind of dried up, unfortunately.
Yeah. Well, yeah, the talent of the musicians here today was I thought spectacular.
For just local people.
Like I did not expect that from like a little local small, what I think of a small town kind of festival thing. I wasn't expecting them to like kill it like that. That was
they're
impressive.
all local people.
Yeah.
Maybe, and I would say that the last band there, she's in Holland. It's like half an hour away. That's about the farthest away anybody was.
Who donated $20?
Never been to Vancouver. A lot of people who have in British Columbia, of course, but
Beautiful place, whole
I
province.
got to Washington State several times, but I just never leave the country. I couldn't get out of the country. Too much stuff going on there.
Yeah.
But yeah, I've heard nothing but good things.
Well, you used to get out of the country.
Well, yeah. I mean, once I got there, it was hard to get out because I just had things going on.
Yeah, for sure.
Dad,
What's sweetie?
Henry looked on YouTube and he just found that we're a website.
We're on a website.
And we're
It's called
called
Wild Family.
Oh yeah. We're on that website.
Yeah.
Nice, you guys are on it. Yeah. So one of Kat's friends from Missoula.
Yeah.
Because I was going out there actually when I was meeting her. I mean, that was a crazy long story, and she was nannying here in the UP.
Yeah.
And she was in Missoula, lived in Missoula, though the rest of the year when she wasn't nannying in the summer at this mansion on Mac Island. And she had a friend there who was traveling. He took his family out. He was traveling with his whole family, his wife and 3 kids and like a brand new baby. Mm-hmm. And they were just in a van, driving around the country, visiting friends in our case, but also just trying to document people, young families who are making what he considered more sustainable choices, and living off the grid as much as possible.
Oh,
So
so
he was
they, like-
visiting people living in teepees and yurts and things around.
Okay. And they interviewed you guys.
Well, he stayed with us because he was an old friend of Callan's.
Oh.
So we were living in an ashram though at the time.
Yeah.
So it was definitely different.
Yeah.
You know, and we were a community. We were a pretty self-supported community.
Yeah.
So it was interesting too. And they stayed in our teepee. so they kind of had the experience, but we weren't off the grid at all. Like most of the people, he was actually spending time with creating a documentary
Mhm.
called Wild Family.
There you go. That's kind of cool. I'm like creating a documentary, but it's live. But it is saved, but it's live.
Right.
And it's unedited, and there's no cutting it together. Like right now, we've probably got close to 900 hours of footage so far
Yeah.
of hitchhiking in 3 months,
Wow.
3.5 months. No, that'd be cool. Something I'd be interested in checking out. This is something I've never done any kind of filmography, any kind of documenting of anything. Never been in front of a camera. Never had to tell a story.
Right.
So this is all 100% new to me, and I don't know what I'm doing. I'm just learning as I go, but I think that's the quickest way you can learn. It's like when you're trying to learn a new language. The quickest way to learn that language is to just go to that country where they only speak that language, and you're kind of forced to learn it as you go.
Yeah, it's a language. It's a way of being in the world, and yeah, you jumped in, and that's the only way. Yeah, absolutely. So I try. What I try to do is have experience, have those kind of novel, have that novel. Try to put that novelty into a relatively routine life that I have with the kids and my full-time job and all. Because I do a lot of other things. I mean, I'm a yoga teacher, so I facilitate. And I really specialize. I mean, what I mostly I actually work with several yoga teacher training programs in the area.
Yeah.
And do workshops more on like yoga philosophy and ethics.
Okay.
Meditation, pranayama, stuff that goes beyond asana. You know, because asana, they've got that controlled. You know, and that's what most of the people are there to learn. But when they want to go a little bit deeper, then I get to facilitate those sorts of things with these teacher training schools. And there's a lot of them, mostly in Grand Rapids, but then Kalamazoo as well. So that's great.
That's interesting.
I travel around a fair amount doing devotional music, kirtan. So mostly from Chicago to the UP. I mean, like music festivals and stuff.
Yeah. And what type of music was that?
It's basically based on Indian devotional music. So it's in Sanskrit or Hindi, some
Okay.
Punjabi, and so it's music with a message, but it's mantra based. So it's
Yeah.
vibrational, it's sound healing and stuff like that.
Would there be a chance you could give me just like a 1 minute sample of? Do you need like multiple people there? I'm just really curious because I don't know when you say that I don't know what I'm.
Oh, okay.
Or even
Yeah.
playing on your thing. Or,
Well, I could, yeah. I mean, I could. Just got some strange ween going on. I was in a ween mood. You know ween?
no, I
Ween.
don't know Ween.
Okay.
Whoa.
There's a this is one of the principal kind of instruments for Indian devotional music here.
That's
Harmonium.
cool. Harmonium.
Yeah.
That's cool.
So it just creates a lot of sound.
Yeah.
So the idea is it's all about vibration and just immersing yourself in the sound.
Yeah.
And this will do it.
That was really impressive. I didn't know what I expected, but that was actually really amazing. I thought. Thank you for showing me.
Oh,
And you've got an amazing voice as well.
oh, thanks, man. Yeah, just praising the Lord.
Yeah. That was really cool. Thanks for showing me.
Yeah, just a snippet. So the thing is that was kind of like, you just mash it up. You stay in a key.
Yeah.
There's all kinds of mantras,
Yeah.
and and they all come from the seeds.
Yeah.
And the ultimate seed, of course, is Om, A-U-M, Aum,
Yeah.
and then you vibrate it up and out.
Okay.
And so a lot of, you can just chant Om. But the thing is, is it's just something you can do that really pretty effortlessly pulls you out of yourself, whatever
Yeah.
you've got going on,
Yeah. No.
in your mind. It's just a way to kind of tune in and drop out
Mhm.
and just become one with
Totally
this
see that.
vibration,
Yeah, I can totally feel that. Yeah.
And then if you've got madrunga players, you've got tabla, you can add in, just get bigger and bigger, and
Yeah.
so I have a group, mostly tabla and bass, and and my sister sings with me, plays djembe, and we travel around and play that kind of stuff. sing mantras, man.
So, do you like fully speak? Is it Hindi?
That was mostly Sanskrit, yeah. No, I know this, like the sacred language
Okay.
part, like day to day. Like Sanskrit is like Latin, or it's not a living language anymore,
Oh,
really.
okay.
But so many of the languages in India are based on it, so you can understand a lot of the words. But for me, it's like I know my vocabulary is limited to the names, pretty much names of the major deities,
Okay.
and their aspects, and their they have all these qualities.
Yeah.
So I'm mostly just singing names like Shiva, for example,
Yeah.
and maybe 100. So I know Shiva, and I know about 100 of his qualities,
Okay.
in Sanskrit.
And then you're saying like quite a bit like Hari shit.
Oh, Hari. Hari.
Hari
Hari.
shit.
Well, I was saying Sham
Sham.
a
Okay.
lot, yeah.
Okay.
So Sham is just dark, like a monsoon cloud coming in, just like life-giving waters.
Okay.
In a lot of the darkness too. A lot of Hinduism, it's like the veil. You're always trying to penetrate the veil that keeps us from seeing reality as it really is. So a lot of these names, they work with nature, and it's like when the storm rolls in, things shift, and you become a lot more present because you have to be. But there's danger. It's like it's a wild force. There's lightning, there's wind. There's also life-giving water, and it also
Yeah.
clears away a lot of stuff. It's absolutely necessary. So it's very tied into a lot of the names, a lot of the aspects of divinity in Hinduism are nature-based principally, because unlike Western religious systems, nothing was ever lost in India. It was just added onto.
Okay.
So you can get very modern types of agnostic kind of, or like humanistic kind of understandings in Hinduism.
Mhm.
But those same people will still also like have a complete understanding of a primordial, like almost indigenous understanding as well. It's all there. India's famous for adding on, in addition, never instead of, always in addition to.
Mhm.
So it's like when people came over to try to introduce Christianity, it wasn't like, okay, now we're Christian and not this. They just put Jesus up on the altar with all their other deities, and they're like, great, it's perfect. Well, it sounds great. I love the message. I'll
Yeah.
put him next to Krishna.
Okay.
They're like, no, you can't do that. It's like, why not? That's what we do. And most Indians I know consider Jesus to be an avatar of Vishnu, just like Krishna or Ram. So
Now, have you spent some time in India yourself? No.
never went. My traveling was done. I never went east. I just stayed in places I was more comfortable with.
Yeah.
Because I was young and just
Mm-hmm.
didn't want to, and pretty naive. This was pre-internet and stuff, so I just didn't have a lot of connections. My connections were in Europe, so that's what I did. But however, I just spent the last 5 years living in an ashram. So India came to me. I didn't go to
Because
India.
I was gonna say,
India came to me.
would that have you end up finding all of this?
Yeah, so I was around Indians all the time.
Okay.
Being part of the Vivekananda monastery
Yeah.
and Ramakrishna Sharda temple, which is
which the lineage comes from Swami Vivekananda, who was the first Swami to come to America and teach Vedanta, teach real Hinduism. And that was 1893, World's Fair in Chicago,
Really?
the White City, you know. So there was a big, they always had the World's Fair, mostly in New York and Boston. It started moving west. Chicago was the Wild West in 1893, and but it finally got to be a big enough town and a well-respected enough town to host the World's Fair in 1893, and they built the White City. So a lot of the buildings, whether it's Shedd Aquarium or the Natural History Museum or the Art Institute, all those buildings that are still there on Michigan Avenue were built for the World's Fair. And what's now the Art Institute of Chicago was built for the World's Fair as the Parliament of a World Religion. So for the first time ever, since who knows when, they pulled dignitaries, religious, spiritual people from around the world to come and hold this parliament. Okay. And their initial thought was, okay, we're going to bring in Tuvan shamans, we're going to bring in African spirituality, we're going to bring in people from all around the world, and we're going to have this big symposium. And by the end of it, we're going to, the kind of the hidden understanding was, by the end of it, we're going to prove once and for all that Christianity is the best religion. that was the underlying the hidden message, And what happened was they failed, utterly failed.
Yeah.
They became, matter of fact, most of the Buddhists and the Hindus. Matter of fact, Swami Vivekananda became the celebrity of the whole parliament, as a Hindu monk, And he was teaching his principal school, because there's a lot of schools. Yeah. There's hundreds, and there's 6 principal schools of Hinduism, and he represented Vedanta. Yoga Vedanta, but mostly Vedanta. And those are the only 2 schools of Hinduism that live in the Western world. Everyone's doing yoga, but it's a very westernized version of yoga, and that's fine. And then Vedanta is more like the philosophical brother of, or sibling of yoga. So Vedanta is philosophy. It's jnana based on knowledge, like what you can understand subjectively and hopefully objectively to be real. So it's very philosophical. And then the yoga is the practice. Okay. And the practice leads you to realization. So they go hand in hand. You can't have realization without practice. You can't have practice without some realization. If you're not realizing, if you're not growing, why practice? And those are the only 2 schools in India that are universal. They're not based. They're you can be an atheist and be a yogi, or a Vedantist. You can completely follow the religion and follow gods and goddesses, or not. It's universal in that way. It's not important. They're like, well, the idea is it's like, if there are these divine beings, that's great. And if you want to surrender to them and be devoted to them, that's fine. But they don't need you, And really the seeds of their divinity are within you. Namaste. The seeds of that divinity is right there. So all the ultimate power, Brahman, which is nirgun, formless, it's pure life force energy. The only thing that whatever created you, the only thing it wants for you is to grow and express, ever more fully your own divinity, your own cosmic being, and just grow into it. So that's the idea. But they call it the razor's edge because it can get really narcissistic if you think, I'm trying to, I'm doing so well. I'm becoming so realized, and everyone around me sucks.
Yeah, I can see how that could go to a point.
So what you have is this practice, which is the path of surrender. It's like, wow, I don't have it all figured out.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like when you cry out to your mom when you're a toddler and you're walking around and you hurt yourself, you start to cry, and you're like, Mom. What does mom do? Mom has no choice but to come to you, and she's going to come to you and comfort you because you're her child, right? So that's what kirtan is basically just crying out to mom and dad. It's like, help me. I can't do this on my own.
Yeah.
You know, it's pure emotional based. It's the yoga of emotion.
Okay.
You know.
I just want to say you're really good at like explaining these points and bringing it all back together. Sometimes I struggle with
drinking a beer, which is so non-yogic, right?
Sometimes I struggle to bring a thought and vocalize it, but you're just very good at taking your idea and expressing that, which is a skill
Wow.
that I'm trying to develop. It's to me, it's impressive what you.
Well, hey,
do that.
give yourself 18 years or so. I've had practice. Yeah, yoga is pretty big these days. But so what I'm offering is how simple how you know, it's like you don't have to do posture. Posture's great, you know, and asana can do a lot for you. I mean, you can feel really good by doing some asana, you know, just very, very restorative asana. But there's so much more, and yoga is truly universal in the fact that you can have any belief system, and just in the methods of yoga will just enhance it. It's just like it's like, you know, the classical yoga, the 8 limbs of yoga are things like, you know, svadhyaya, like self-study, like learn who you are.
Yeah.
You know, and if you learn that you're a person who loves Jesus, that's great, love Jesus. You know, I mean, if that's who you are.
Yeah.
And if that's not who you are, try loving other things. So love a dog, love a tree, you know. And maybe someday you'll love Jesus, maybe you never will because you've been too damaged or something, and it's okay. It's okay as long as you know that it's not Jesus, it's not the people that might have hurt you, it's you, and you're just trying to figure it out, you know. There's nothing inherently wrong with any system. That's why I have all the systems here. I went to a seminary in Manhattan, started by a rabbi, a swami, and a priest. and I got trained as an interfaith minister there, All Faith Seminary in Manhattan. And the whole point of the seminary was not to go learn by rote theology, which you do in most seminaries. It was an experiential interfaith situation where I had to go to 9 different religions and I had to immerse myself in them for 3 months.
Wow.
So I went to the Gurudwara for 3 months and had to interview people and ask people, hey, you know, I'd love to talk to you. I'm really excited about Sikhism. Can I talk to you about it? And just like you on your journey here, where you just find people, when people are actually on the road to find out something, you know, and they're really interested in learning and becoming, you know, becoming more authentic by following their heart, you know, they get excited about it. And they're like, who wants to know about Islam? You know, it's like most of the time people are spitting at us. It's like, please come into our house, cook meals, you know. And next thing you know, I'm just hanging out with these people, and I'm like a family friend, you know.
Yeah.
And you learn a whole lot more about not only about spirituality and religion, but just our common humanity. You know?
Oh. That must have been a really interesting experience.
Yeah, it was 2 years of wonderful experiences, one after another. So I got to hitchhike through the religions, basically.
That's a good way to put it. I like that.
Yeah. And people were more than willing to share.
I bet.
People who had never even, you know, you got a lot of, especially on the east side of the state, a lot of Muslim communities and Punjabi, like Sikhs, and who had never, you know, I was the first Westerner to like approach them and be like, hey, I want to find out more about this. You know, I hear all this weird stuff, and I know it's not weird. So just help me learn. You know, and they were more than willing. It was one amazing situation after another. And I got to be an interfaith minister at this ashram. So I did services, and I still do, at a permaculture farm now, next door. So there's a monastery, a permaculture farm in the ashram, and I moved from the ashram to the permaculture farm. So,
Man,
good stuff.
got a lot that I can learn from, and a lot of people could learn from. Just a lot of knowledge, a lot of life knowledge.
Yeah, and it principally came from anything I have, standing on the shoulders, the giants, standing on the shoulders of others, like Newton said, right? yeah, I've stood on a lot of tall shoulders, like my rabbi. You know, I mean, I grew up Catholic. We were taught to. It wasn't a very friendly thing for Jewish people, or they were. Unfortunately, growing up Catholic, I was taught that they were the kind of reason why Jesus wasn't around for very long after he started ministering. So it was hard for a lot. It was hard for me to understand Judaism until I met the rabbi, Hasidic rabbi, so him, Swami Satchidananda, Brother David, Stendhal Ross, and these are all people you can YouTube all day. They're all amazing people, and I was lucky enough to meet them. Yeah. So that's kind of why. Like I met like the cream. I got to know B. Griffith. I got to know the cream of the crop of people doing this more integrative, integral spiritual work. It's like you don't have to throw the baby out with the bathwater. It's like everyone's trying for the next. But maybe this next new thing will provide some meaning for me.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, that's not how it works. You got some of these things that have provided meaning for people for thousands and thousands of years.
Yeah.
And it might not be for you, but appreciation is where growth starts. When something appreciates, it grows.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. So that's the meaning of appreciation is growth. Most people, it's just around money. But So like with the one of the cool things, I don't think I have it right on me. It's probably in the other room, but like with yoga, the Radiant Sutras, you've got 112 different yoga practices, and they're just so. It's like if you're doing any of these, you're doing yoga, and one is like one of the. These are like high teachings, in yoga philosophy, in ancient 3,000, 4,000 years old.
Mm-hmm.
They're like cook a meal for someone with love.
Yeah.
That's yoga.
Okay.
Contemplate the vastness of the universe. That's yoga. That's all it is.
Yeah.
You don't need to know any names, and you don't need to know any Sanskrit. As long as you've got the English version of the Radiant Sutras, and it's like, wow. If you want to do yoga, you can just take a moment, take a few deep breaths, and contemplate the vastness of the universe.
No, that's pretty cool. Now, I think I'm going to wind down my stream now just because it's late for my stream and stuff like that. Just as a cool way to wind it down, do you mind if I say goodnight to them? And could you play them out with like one more song? Because I actually really liked it. Is that something you'd be comfortable doing?
Sure.
So I'm just going to say goodnight to them. And then we'll just play out with a song. Thank you guys all for watching today. I'll be back on tomorrow for more hitchhiking. I need a host too. Mods, give me someone. Thanks, Jones Bones.
Sitaram